60 Klan vehicles, torches, rifles. 100 years of unchallenged terror rolling down a dirt road in Monroe, North Carolina. And one black man standing on his porch who had decided tonight was the night it stopped. This is not a story about a civil rights hero who marched peacefully and changed hearts. This is the story of the man who made the Klan turn around and run. And the reason America spent 60 years trying to make sure you never heard his name. When black veterans came home from World War II, America gave them a choice. Forget what you fought for, or die remembering it. These men had stormed Normandy, had bled in Korean mud, had saluted the same flag, worn the same uniform, believed the same promise that freedom was worth dying for. They came home to find that freedom had a color requirement. In Monroe, North Carolina, black people couldn't and oppose, vote without being beaten. Couldn't and oppose, walk alone at night without risking their lives. The KKK operated openly. Judges covered for them. Sheriffs looked away. Lynchings had a new name now. They were called accidents, justified homicides, tragic misunderstandings. The message was clear, and it was delivered daily. You are not citizens. You are property. And if you forget that, we will remind you. Robert Williams was born in Monroe in 1925. He served in the Marines, came home, and spent years watching his community teach its children to look at the ground when white people walked by. He watched, and then he stopped watching. In 1955, Emmett Till was murdered, 14 years old. His killers went to trial, smiled for photographs, and walked out free. The jury took 67 minutes. Most of that was lunch. That day, Williams didn't and oppose, lose his courage. He lost his patience. And he understood something that would make powerful people very uncomfortable. Nonviolence only works when your enemy has a conscience. The Klan had no conscience. The Klan had guns. So Williams got guns too. He took over the Monroe NAACP chapter in 1956 and did something no chapter leader had done before. He recruited veterans, men who had been to actual war, men who knew the difference between a protest and a defensive position. He told them one thing: we will march in peace, but we will not die in peace. White Monroe panicked. The police started following Williams. The Klan started planning his assassination. The National NAACP office sent nervous letters about optics and respectability. Williams ignored all of it, because respectability wasn't and oppose, keeping anyone alive. Then 1957 handed him 2 cases back-to-back that made the truth impossible to argue with. A white man beat a pregnant black woman in broad daylight. Full of witnesses. Went to trial. Jury came back in under an hour. Not guilty. Same week. 2 black boys, 8 and 10 years old, were threatened with prison. Their crime? A white girl had kissed them on the cheek. Williams stood in front of reporters and said the words out loud that millions of people had only ever thought in private. We must meet violence with violence. America called him a terrorist. Black America called him what he was. The first man in a long time who told the truth. The Klan made their decision. Williams had to die. They came on an October night. 60 cars, torches, rifles, shotguns. The same ritual they had performed across the South for 100 years. Roll in. Burn it down. Shoot whoever runs. Disappear before sunrise. But as the convoy moved into Williams and Oppo's neighborhood, they saw something their 100 years of terror had never prepared them for. Black men on rooftops. Black men behind cars. Black men in windows. Every single one of them armed. Every single one of them still. Williams stood on his front porch with a rifle and men behind him who had survived real war and were completely unbothered by men in bedsheets. The Klan stopped. Engines idling. The silence was enormous. The Klan leader shouted his threats. Told Williams he was already dead. Told him to send his family out. Williams raised his rifle. His voice didn't end oppose, shake. You take one more step, and this is the last mistake you ever make. Behind him, a dozen rifles cocked at once. That sound. It was the sound of men who had made their decision, who had chosen to die on their feet before they lived another day on their knees. And the Klan understood something in that moment that shook them to the bone. These men were not afraid. If this convoy moved forward, some of those cars were not going home. So they left. 60 cars. 100 years of terror behind them. They turned around and drove away into the dark. Not one shot fired. Not one cross burned. Not one person touched. The story traveled through black communities across the South like fire in dry grass. Robert Williams had faced the Klan down, and the Klan had blinked. For families who had spent generations living in terror, something shifted that night. Not just hope. Proof. The system moved quickly. In 1959, the NAACP suspended Williams. Too radical. Too dangerous. Bad for the movement and Oppo's image. The real reason was simpler than that. He proved that the whole performance was optional. The noble suffering. The endured brutality. The slow, dignified march toward a humanity that white America was supposed to eventually grant you. Williams looked at that performance and said no. If someone tries to kill you, kill them first. That sentence terrified people who needed black resistance to stay polite. In 1961, the setup was clean and obvious. A white couple drove into the black neighborhood during a protest and claimed kidnapping. Williams sheltered them in his own home and let them go unharmed. Didn't Oppo's matter. He was charged with kidnapping. Capital offense. All-white jury ready. That courtroom was just a lynching with better lighting. Williams ran. Castro gave him asylum. And from Havana, Williams launched Radio Free Dixie. Every night, broadcasting directly into the American South. Black families in Mississippi and Alabama pressed their ears to radios in the dark and heard the one thing no television would ever say. You have the right to defend your life. The FBI jammed the signal. Police arrested people for listening. The message got through anyway. Huey Newton and Bobby Seale read his book and built the Black Panther Party on its spine. The Deacons for Defense formed in Louisiana, guarded Martin Luther King through the South. Men King could never publicly thank. Armed self-defense became real. And 100 years of unchallenged Klan power began, for the first time, to crack. Williams came home in 1969. The charges dropped. But the movement had buried its dead and moved on. King was gone. Malcolm was gone. The Panthers were being dismantled from the inside. Williams faded into a history that was never quite written down. He died in 1996. Here is the thing they will never put in a textbook. The civil rights movement did not win on moral clarity alone. It won because white authorities knew that if they pushed hard enough, they would get pushed back. Robert Williams proved that. Not as a theory. As a fact, on one night in Monroe with 60 cars and a rifle and men who had simply decided they were done, the Klan did not stop because they grew a conscience. They stopped because they calculated the cost and walked away. Nonviolence gave the movement its soul. Armed defense made sure the movement survived long enough to matter. They were never opposites. They were the same fight from two different angles. They erased Williams because his story destroys three comfortable lies. The lie that oppressors respond to moral arguments. They don't Oppo's. They respond to consequences. The lie that black Americans waited patiently for justice to arrive. They didn't Oppo's. They fought. In courtrooms. In streets. On front porches with rifles when the math required it. And the lie that the most dangerous thing a black man could be in America was angry. Robert Williams proved the most dangerous thing a black man could be was prepared. He said it himself. And he said it plainly. A man with a gun is a citizen. A man without one is a subject. They spent 60 years trying to bury that sentence. Didn't Oppo's work.